I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to listen to the rest of the episode.
For your new YouTube videos, keep doing what you're doing.
Also, your voice is so relaxing.
Great topics, amazing delivery.
You are an inspiration always.
Thank you for putting your gifts
Never stop.
into the world.
I'm here to give you the keys, not just to survive, but to thrive. Grab your pens, grab your notebooks. Let's go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Life Unlocked. Today, we are joined by my lovely guest.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about the topic of authenticity and self-image. So it's going to be really fun. Grab your notebooks, grab your pens. You're in for a wild ride. I'm going to start by asking some really intense interview questions.
Please do. I love intense questions.
First things first.
I'm the realist.
Who the heck are you, and how much water did you drink yesterday?
Oh my gosh. Who the heck am I? I am a 25-year-old Aquarius who lived in Australia for the past 10 years.
Okay, I love that.
How much water did I drink yesterday? Bitch, not enough.
Oh no. Okay.
I am dehydrated. I know. That was one of my 2021 New Year's resolutions, and then also a 2022 New Year's resolution, and we're still working on her.
It's okay. I'm gonna get you a water bottle. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm actually terrible at water. You definitely added me in the comments of that one.
I was yelling, so there's an exclamation point there. I'm glad you confessed. It wasn't like you were like, listen, man, I'm the healthiest person on the planet.
No, girl.
Let's be real.
We're being authentic. We're being authentic, and I am
authentic
dehydrated.
Okay, so what's your favorite smell?
Oh my gosh, I would say tie between vanilla and grape, but not together.
Okay,
Either like a vanilla smell or a grape smell.
touche. What are you known for?
Ooh,
I know, right?
Okay, for people who don't know me, I'm known for my
Cue the
hair.
sweat. Okay.
If you don't really know me, then I'm known for my hair. People always come up and they're like, oh, I saw you at this place, or I remember the hair, like I know you from this set you worked on or whatever. But for people who do know me, they know me for being like the life of the party and like social butterfly.
Okay, a very good way to be known. And you said what your sign is, Aquarius.
Yes, but I mean, like, of course. Like I always get people to, when they ask,
giving
I'm like, no, but you
Aquarius
tell
energy.
me. Like, just like talk to me for 5 more minutes. Think about it. Come on, it's an Aquarius.
Yeah, very much. Very much. Okay, what's one thing you're most proud of?
Ooh. You know what? I would say the quality of life that I have achieved in the short amount of time since moving back to Canada.
Wow.
Like I have really, y'all don't know that Australian version. We ain't talking about checkout chick from the theme park.
Okay.
So if like, look, every time I do something here like this, I have this little
Yeah.
pinch me moment and I'm like, Australian Keenan is at home. Like, you go girl. Like so proud. So I would say that is the first thing that comes to mind.
I love that. Amazing. Now, it's an emergency. You're running out of blood. What's your blood type?
I don't know.
Oh my God, you just died. It's okay.
Like,
That
I
was
don't know.
what was that? You better figure it out at some point.
Oh, yeah,
Let us know one day. Let us know.
That's terrible.
It's okay. It's okay. They'll test it and then they'll come back and they'll save your life.
The only thing I know about my blood is that doctors don't want it. I'm not allowed to donate because I'm queer.
Oh my God.
That's a thing. That's a thing. Queer men are not allowed to donate blood.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, because apparently anal sex is gross. Like that's basically when you read it, like that's the basis. Like because straight people don't have anal sex, and so there's more risk of our blood being tainted. And so if you're a gay man,
Whoa.
you cannot donate blood.
That is
or a bisexual
crazy.
man. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. So that's the
Wow.
only thing I know about my blood. They don't want it, so like, fine, I'll keep it to myself.
Exactly. That is your blood to keep.
Mhm.
Screw them. That's
Mhm.
bias. I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they wouldn't take my blood because they were like, you have low iron. And I was like, dude,
I just feel like racism is alive.
it's
and well.
pretty much, it is in front of us in the physics. Like,
This feels
holy,
pointed.
Yeah, that was racist for sure. Okay, so what's your lucky number?
16.
Okay.
I don't
Good
know why.
number.
It just
It could be anything. It could be like the
yeah, it has been
16th
since I was a kid.
hour. It could be when you were 16 years old.
Maybe.
Good times.
Yeah.
Anything. anything?
Yeah, it's I don't know, since day one, it's always been 16. That's what I go with, and I've been pretty lucky. So I'm gonna stick with it.
I like it. I like it. My lucky number is 29. So I don't know where I got it from either. But when I see it, I'm like, yes.
Good.
I know it's odd. A lot of people
I
think
was gonna
that
say, how often
my
do you see
numbers are-
29?
Exactly. But when I see it, I'm like, good things are coming.
I love it. I love it.
It's about time. It's been 8 years since I seen the number 29. The clock was ticking.
For some luck.
Right? Itching. All right. So what's your shoe size?
10 in women's,
Nice.
9 in men's, but I don't wear boys' shoes.
No. Well, so I wear boy shoes. They're a lot cheaper for me
Oh, absolutely.
because they're like youth sized 6. And I know I'm not a youth. I know. But I have bills. So it's one of the reasons why I feel justified in my cheating purchase. It's the eyes for me. I'm like, oh no. I'm going to be in the adult section from now on.
No, I'm jealous of you. Girl, my
Oh,
shoes
yeah.
are hard to find. I always see cute shoes online. I was like, would never fit my big ski flipper feet.
Oh, no, listen, you've got stability. Honestly, I'm falling down all
Okay,
the time.
this. Okay, this. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yes. And what the heck are you doing here?
Bitch, you tell me. You know, I'm making a name for myself and I have something to say. And so I'm
Yeah.
saying it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Awesome. So, obviously, here being their authentic self, we're going to be talking about next the mosaic. Now, a lot of people don't know what the heck we're talking about when we're saying mosaic. But when it comes to your authentic self, the reason why I always bring up the topic of the mosaic is because it's how your experiences, your choices, and how time tie into the person that you are. It make you your mosaic. It's the difference between your mom always being a certain way or whoever raised you and picking up little pieces along the way through the ocean of time. And so obviously your authentic self can change with time as well, but your mosaic kind of looks like me always wanting to make people laugh because my brother's always had a really great sense of humor. And so my brother is a part of my mosaic.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you want to name something that's part of yours?
Yeah, so I hadn't really thought of it like that before, but now that you bring it up, I totally can see it. Yeah, okay, so my mosaic is definitely more like self-centered based. It's not about other people, but that's because I really struggled with my authentic self for a time in that pubescent
Era.
period of life, which is hard for anyone. But
Yes.
I would say internalized homophobia
Oh, wow.
is a part of my mosaic.
Yeah.
Not a pretty part, but it is worth acknowledging because there is a version of myself from a long time ago that probably would have pointed and made fun of this version of myself from across the street.
Wow.
So it's worth saying that I'm here now. Do you know what I mean? So like that's
Definitely.
definitely a part of my mosaic.
Wow.
Jagged.
No, not at all. It's very real. And I love the fact that you mentioned it as a part of your mosaic because a lot of times we don't realize some of the things that kind of like are a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do we not realize, if we do realize, we tend to pretend that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And so that's a whole issue that like
Mhm.
we need to stop doing, especially
Mhm.
because if we pretend that the bad parts don't exist, they just kind of like snowball out of control. But when you acknowledge them, it's just kind of like addiction. If you notice that you have a problem, you admit that you have a problem.
Mhm.
Then you can, fix it.
Mhm.
So
and it ties into authenticity. I think you can't wear all your badges on your
Exactly.
chest. You have to, wear your losses as well because it's both that make you who you are.
Yeah. Proudly wearing your battle scar,
That part.
right? So, the next thing that I was going to do was simply just define authenticity. It's the quality of being authentic. Authentic, just like your unique version of yourself, and kind of living in that. And then self-image is your mental picture, generally, of a kind that is quite resistant to change. So the reason why I wanted to make sure to touch on self-image is because a lot of times, like Keenan was mentioning, we have a bad self-image and we struggle to change it, and we can hear about affirmations and go down that road and do our best. But if we don't realize that it's quite resistant to change, similar to a stubborn stain, we won't put in the effort to improve it. And so we have to be informed about what we're up against, because then we know the battle we're fighting. So
well put. So well put. Exactly.
yeah. So I don't know if you want to go first.
Oh yeah. Sure.
But
Sure.
the assignment is to kind of talk about some of the ways that like you've come up, just kind of like in 10-year spans, like
Ooh, okay. We can
5, 10,
we
15,
can go.
20. And how your authentic self has kind of changed, because you touched a little bit on it, but it's really interesting.
We can deep dive.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I'll just quickly will explain my authentic self as the version I am here, because people tend to have a lot of questions, because there are a lot of people within the queer community who demand a lot of answers, whereas for me, I personally don't really care too much for labels, because I just kind of find it of like a subscription that I have to keep up with. And so if I'm not telling you what it is, you can't be confused later on the track if it morphs. Exactly. And so I don't like to put myself in boxes. So there's not very many labels I will use. And when I do, they're very loose terms. So for me, like a lot of people assume that I am non-binary. And I think if you look at the dictionary definition of what non-binary is, then yes, I am it. But I do not use that word to describe myself. I say that I am GNC, which stands for gender non-conforming. And it's not that deep. It basically just explains that in my life, I don't go to the heteronormative narrative of what should be for a masculine or a feminine person. And I kind of came to that title, and I didn't come up with it. It's at the community. But I kind of came to that from looking backwards. Like when I was a kid and I was told to pick toys, I would go and get a Tonka truck and go get Hot Wheels, and then I would walk into the Barbie section and buy dolls. And so I wanted all of it at once. And it was not looking like, oh, the blue boy section and the pink girl section. It was just toys. And so I realized from a young age, I always sort of filtered out the like masculine, feminine, boy and girl thing, and was just always shopping from both. And so it's kind of always been a part of it. But I obviously started suppressing that in high school. And so basically the way I like now psychoanalyze myself is I think that I saw these people out in public, and without being self-aware of like conscious at the time, I think I was deeply jealous that they could present confidently and comfortably who they were. And I think deep down I wanted to obviously do that as well, but I didn't feel like I could. So then it showed as hate for them.
Definitely.
And I wanted to specify that it was never gayness. I realized I was gay at the age of 14, and I came out in like 2 weeks, because I've always been a very, for the most part, authentic person. So it was like, oh, if I understand this about myself, why would I keep it to me? Like, hey everyone, I'm attracted to boys. And so that was very absolute. And so like hooking up with a guy was fine. You can be, you know, doing whatever you want with Tom, Dick, and Harry around the corner. But if you have nails on, you're done. And it's just this weird double standard that like sex with a man was totally chill. I'm like, that's cool, bro. But like, don't have long hair, don't wear makeup. And so I remember like I have a distinct memory. It's like a trauma memory of like being at a self-serve checkout in like a Walmart or something. And I'm with my friends, we're buying something. And I see this guy in my peripheral vision. He has like a backwards hat, hoodie, jeans. He's dressed stereotypically masculine. And when he turns his head to the side, he's a full face of makeup. And I remember being like instantly angered by that, and was like, ew. And I pointed him out to my friends. And I was like, look at that guy. And they were like, Keenan, why do you care? Like, how is that affecting your day? And also like kettle black, like you're a gay man because he's wearing makeup. Is he more gay? It's like a level up. Like it's what is the, I think. And I just remember feeling so dumb once they called it out of like, wait, why do I care?
Those are good friends.
And then it was a rocky road that still had this like internalized homophobia, but only really about feminine men. And then like a lot of self-hate going through puberty, was comparing myself to women constantly, but not self-aware that what I was doing was comparing myself to women. So how come I didn't like the way I looked? How come it's because I wasn't a woman, but I wasn't making that link in my head. And so slipped into an eating disorder in my final year of high school because I became really thin. And so then suddenly I don't not have curvy hips because I'm a boy. It's because I'm so thin that even a girl who was this thin wouldn't have hips. So I suddenly felt like I was finding femininity, but again, not consciously making those connections. Lots of self-hate, lots of issues. I'm sure everyone goes through in puberty, but like this was 100%. Because of being a masculine and going through a masculine puberty. Suddenly I have hair growing and shoulders are coming in and hips are narrowing and stuff like that. And it was like puberty it hit me like a brick. I started growing a mustache at age 13. And so it was just like, I was told to be a man before I even understood what a man was so it was like, obviously puberty's decided for you, but like mine came early and it came with the big present. So I remember it was a really, really, really hard growing up into and like becoming a man before other guy friends were. And I was the only wasn't identifying it with like, it was a struggle. And so I have a distinct memory of being in high school and walking behind this couple, this boy and a girl. And I was looking at his legs and realized that my legs looked just like his. And so I was like, I remember comparing myself because all I ever did as a teenager would compare myself to others. And I was looking at his legs and was like, hey, his legs look like mine. And then I looked at hers. And this is so weird, but this is what it was really. Like I remember looking at her like the back of them and like the back of their knees, and her legs look so different. The shape from her thighs, the silhouette, the back of her knees, even there's just differences in XY chromosomes. And so I remember looking at her legs and being like, oh, hers look so different to mine, and they look different to his, but mine look the same as his. And all of a sudden it was like, I am not comparing myself to other boys. I'm comparing myself to other girls. And that's why it's this like unachievable comparison. And that's why it sort of like shattered the glass and like lifted the veil from my head. And so I was like, just like opened everything of like why I was never happy. I remember like I would pose for pictures with people and I would be picturing like an actress in my head. That I like my picture was like, oh, I saw her pose in her company like this. And then it would show my face with this like facial hair and things. And I'd be like, it doesn't look like her at all. But but like wasn't making that connection. And then it's a really unfortunate. This was at a time where names like Jeffree Star, James Charles, Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye, they like weren't on TV just yet. They weren't on Instagram. So there was no visual reference for anyone. I remember someone said I was like, people used to think I was like Conchita Wurst, the winner of Eurovision. Remember the bearded, like long, beautiful hair, won Eurovision in like 2014 or something. And people used to say, but I didn't watch Eurovision. I didn't know who this was. So I was like, okay. But other than that, like I didn't have visual references to be like, I think I'm like that. So when I started telling people like, I think I want to grow out my hair, I think I want to start dressing in the girls section, they'd be like, oh, you're trans. And so people told me I was transgender. They're like, that's chill. You're a girl. And so I was like, okay. And I remember I used to like take this really long bus route. It was like an hour after school every day. And I had no friends on that bus. And I would listen to music and look out the window and I would daydream about being a woman. And so some days it would feel really good. And then other days it would scare the shit out of me. And I was like, I don't want this. It was like it was being decided for me all over again. And I started the journey. There was like, I would like come out as like a joke. I'd be like, maybe I want to be a girl, but like probably not though. Like, I don't know. And like every other day be like, this might be a thing like in a couple years.
What's the reaction?
And then they would like ask about it later and be like, oh, I was joking. Like what, I don't remember saying that. And so it was very this like in and out. And then I would do all this research online. And I remember like if you looked at my poor search history back then, it would be like, am I transgender? How do I know if I'm a boy or a girl? Decipher, like wanting someone else to tell me and to understand, be like, you can be neither. You can be right in the middle, and that's perfectly fine. But like, we were just on the cusp of all of the gender diverse conversations being around. It's so frustrating. I always see this stuff online. I'm like, if that Instagram account was around, like, oh, everything would have been so much easier. But I also think going through that hardship made me as strong as I am today. So like, not trying to be like, I'm glad it happened, but silver lining, thick skin. And so anyways, I was like on my own terms. I was like looking at appointments to book to places to talk about going on hormone therapy. Like it was like a whole thing. And so we have this thing in Australia called the World's Greatest Shave. It happens every year and people will be like, do you call it like pledged when people are like sponsoring them to like do something like shave their hair? Yeah. So there'd be people who do that. And then while they were doing it on stage, adults would be like, and does anyone feel crazy from the crowd and want to jump up? And one year I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I got up and I shaved my head fully bald in front of everyone, serving Caillou realness. Wow. And then but I remember wanting to do it as like a plan. I was like, and I knew, I was like, it was like planned. I was like, when they call everyone up, I'm going to pretend spontaneously, but like 6 months in advance, I know I'm going to do this. And it was this plan of like, I'm going to shave my head and then I'm never going to cut it again. I'm going to grow it as long as I can. And that shaving that represented like shaving the masculinity and like I'm restarting. It was very Britney Spears 2007. Like I'm reborn and I'll start tapping into this femininity. And so from that point on, I just started growing my hair back out long. And then
and gorgeous.
Thank you. And like shopping in feminine sections. I remember like I had just met my boyfriend. We met like a month after graduating high school. And I like amount him to so much of the confidence and comfortability I have. He was right there at the start to hold my hand and just be like, oh my God, you look so fire. This is great. And I don't know how far we would have got there on our own. So like shout out to him. We love a supportive partner. I was in Sydney and I remember going to this store and there was this like, I still have it, this velvet romper. And I like looked at it. And then I like left and then I like went back to the store and looked at it and then left and I like went back again and she was like, oh, like, do you want to try it? I was like, it's for a friend. I just think she would really like it. No, I don't want to try it on. And then I like went call my boyfriend. I was like, there's something I want to buy. And he's like, oh, cool. Like, what is it? And I was like, it's like a velvet and it's from the girls section. And he was always very big, like, there's no such thing as a boys and a girls section. It's just fabric.
Facts.
Humans are the ones who attach a gender to it. Yeah. He's like, just go try it on. And he was like, I was like, no, I can't. Like, what's she going to think? He's like, she's going to think she might make money off you. Like, it's a win-win situation.
Like,
she's going to love it. Just, go put on. So I like went and I think she knew that I was super nervous and like there was no friend. It was for me. And so she was like, I remember she like picked it up and was just like, okay, well, if you want to like I called my friend, she's interested. She's like, okay, well, I'll put it in the dressing room in case you want to like hold it up for the mirror for your friend to see. I was like, okay, thanks. And I went and shut the door and I put it on and felt this euphoria that I can't even explain. The first time putting on was just like, I don't know, it was like seeing a version of myself that finally matched inside. Like, oh my, I will never forget being in that change room. I like burst into tears, but like happy crying. And so I like sent pictures to my boyfriend. He's like, yeah, you look great. Buy it. And so I was like, yes, she liked it. Like, but it was like $25 or something. And so I left and like baby steps. My hair is like maybe to my ears at this point. Like it's just barely growing out. I don't even have the bangs cut in yet.
Yeah.
And so it was like early days. And from then on, it's been really quick. And I remember having this conversation in a car when things were getting serious with my boyfriend, like first month. And I said to him and I was like, listen, I'm starting this journey and I don't really understand it myself. And it was very like self-deprecating. Basically like, I don't know who I am or what I'm going to be. And I just don't want to feel like I'm like misleading you or like giving you the wrong thing you didn't sign up for. So like, I don't know, in a year I could be a girl. I might be transgender. I might not be. I might be a masculine guy. I might be a feminine girl. I might be somewhere in between. Like, I don't know. So it's fine. If you want to go, like, this isn't what you signed up for. I get it. It's so good. Like,
you're like,
it's
how do
okay.
I self-sabotage this?
Yeah, no, seriously. I was just like, it's cool. I get it. Like you don't know what you're signing up for. You think you're getting a car. It could be a bike in a month. Like, it's so cool. We can pull the plug now. And I will like never forget the words he said. He just turned to me and was like, Keenan, like, do you think I'm attracted to you because of your genitals or your physical shell or the clothing you wear, your hair, anything like superficial on the surface like that? He was like, I am in love with you because I'm in love with your soul and the person you is. Any vessel that encapsulates any type of genitals, any type of styling, makeup or not, anything like that, masculine, feminine, I don't care because I love you for who you are. I'm here for the long run. Like, my love for you goes way deeper than that. I remember bursting into tears, feeling so seen. Like the first time in my life, I felt so seen. Yeah. Feeling seen is like, it's necessary. Trust me, for someone who didn't feel seen because they didn't feel understood with my own self for so long. Yeah, it's a necessity for your mental health. And so that day is like, oh my gosh, that moment in the car has always stuck with me as a huge thing. And then from then on, it was just like, yeah, cool. And so it was kind of this journey from like, if 0 is masculine and 100 is feminine, I thought I was going all the way to whatever a fully fledged woman is. And I got 50%. and still had my facial hair and was still like masculine, but wearing skirts and dresses and having long hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, all the dysphoria is gone. All the voices in my head, all the self-hate, it's left. I don't need to keep going 100% to women and get on hormones or anything. It's just, I just had to get here. I just had to be a feminine guy.
And feel comfortable.
And I'm good. And I'm just gender nonconforming. And so finally reaching that halfway point. And of course, as I'm reaching that, there's all these men up in the media who are also wearing makeup or growing the hair long. It's like, oh yeah, this would have been nice like 5 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, that's basically how I like came to understand who I am and how I operate.
I like that.
But I think there's lots of conversation out there that sexuality is a spectrum. And from a long time, everyone's kind of understood that. But no one until recent is sort of understanding that like gender is also a spectrum.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone that it is. Like people like to say gender fluid, and I can understand that because it feels like a stream. Like that's because where I am now, and yes, I've been there for like 5 years. Doesn't mean in 10 it's not going to come back, and I'm going to want to push further and further. And maybe at the end of my life, I am a much more feminine version, or I revert and more masculine. I don't know where I'm going.
Exactly.
I just sort of go with the flow, so to speak. But yeah, I think gender is definitely a spectrum, and it's more complex than just A, B, or C.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that. And it's awesome that it sounds like you found a safe space, but also like unconditional love through your partner, which are the two things that are represented by like mother and father. And so ultimately you found a home away from home in your partner, which gave you that safe space to genuinely be yourself. Whether or not you were like, hey, so now that these changes are happening, I'm no longer worthy of love. That's okay. Like, you know, and he was like, no, we still love you, and gave you that safe space, that love that is unconditional to allow you to feel secure and make any change and feel happy about it and take risks and own it.
Absolutely. And I will say that like my family was definitely, they've always been supportive since I came out as gay and when I would write things, but it was definitely a lot more of like, it felt like answering I had to do. It was more questions like, oh, so you're gonna wear a skirt now, like do you still want to be called Keenan? And my brain wasn't even going for it. I was like, I don't know, I just know that it feels good to wear a skirt right now, and so that's what I'm doing one step at a time. And they were just like more confused, and again for them as well, there wasn't these references out in media to draw on, so they were just kind of like, well, my boy wants to wear a skirt, like yeah, you look good, but what does this mean? Why? And like making it something deeper than it was. And I feel like my partner was the first person who just like didn't ask any questions, was like, it's fine however it is. I'm here for the ride.
Yeah.
And so finally I felt like I didn't have to explain myself because I couldn't answer it to myself. I didn't understand either. It was like
they
I was
didn't have
treading
the resources we had.
and I was treading new water myself. I was like, I don't know. I'll tell you when I figure it out. I just feel really pretty in the skirt right now. That's as far as I can go. It's all I can give you.
Live in the moment.
Yeah.
For sure. And I feel like that's a huge part of authenticity too, is like if you're trying to base what you're doing and how you're acting and how you connect with people on a previous experience, then you're not going to have that authentic connection. So even in that moment, making that choice to be like, this is the me I'm going to be, whether or not it's wearing a dress or a beard or mixing the two, like there's no simple black and white about it. There is some gray. We can choose to play it and be, you know, childlike in that way because there's too much frowning upon being childlike when it's part of what makes us who we are.
Absolutely.
Like, we
for sure.
definitely need to embrace that imagination, embrace that creativity. And part of that creativity is this outside. And so I'm really, really thankful to you for sharing the steps along the way, because you had to overcome some stuff there and it was tough. And I'm glad that you are here today to share that.
Thank you.
I appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
I was going to like blurb on a bit of myself.
Please do.
So put myself in the hot seat now. I pretty much when I was younger, my mom was with women. And so I was raised by two female parents. And it was like an ongoing until I got older. And I think my mom was pretty much finding who she was while I was a child, finding who I was. And so it made it interesting when I was really young to be raised by two moms and just completely think it's normal. We had the same thing that families have, neighbors and friends and family. And when you're coming up and you're thinking that this is your normal, you kind of just think differently. And so There was no judgment for me. I didn't obviously like share all of the things that were happening for me because I'm very much of an introvert. And so what happens is I end up just kind of like just sitting there, like being like, what is this with life itself? And so I do remember like my first crush was on a woman who she dressed like a man. She looked like a man and her name was Brandy. And I was like, wow, like I have a crush on this person's personality. Like every time I'm around them, I feel really great. And they like make me feel happy and they're a playful person. And like, they were like, probably like my mom's youngest friend or something. Like it wasn't even like someone my age. Like it was like a full blown adult. And I'm just like, but I just like how like, I don't have to worry about anything. I felt like really worried when I was at school. The family structures that my friends had, I didn't have. And so I kind of wouldn't really let my guard down in a lot of ways because we also were the only people of color in the town of Perth, which had like a population of, I think, like 100,000 or something. Or
did you
probably
find
less,
yourself
2,000.
comparing yourself to other kids? Like, would you be like,
100%.
I have two moms and they have a mom and a dad?
100%. And that was one of the things
sad.
that kind of like when I was still in elementary and I was like riding the bus, again, these long bus rides, when you're living in like a town and you like have to get driven into the city to like go to school and driven back, I remember like sitting at the back and like it's kind of funny because we need to censor the word, but pretty much the kid was like, do you want to hear my chainsaw? And he was just like, nigger, 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 nigger. And I didn't really get it because I just had no idea like what race was. So I just asked my mom, like, Mom, what does this mean? And then she was like, go look it up. And I was like, okay. And I'm like reading it. And it was just
Go
like,
look it up.
Yeah, my mom's a kind mom. She was like literally a drill sergeant.
Go look it up.
Like she just was totally
Copy that.
unbiased. Like she was unbiased when it came to like race, gender.
Yep.
Like she was a woman that went to marches and protests. And she pretty much was like, this is like, you're going to see what it is.
Yeah,
and when
I mean,
you
I have to
understand
respect
the
that there's no
definition,
sugarcoating. A really like awful thing. So yeah.
The insane part is dictionary back then, it pretty much was like ignorant person. So then when you look up ignorant, because another word didn't know the meaning of, it was like to be without knowledge. And I was like, oh, not me. Okay, cool. So pretty much I didn't relate to the word because my mom didn't provide all of the bad negative connotation and energy onto the word. And she didn't give it the power. She literally was like, go look it up. And when I looked it up, I was like, doesn't resonate with me. To be without knowledge. Literally, that's not me. So I
can't believe
on
that's what the
keeping
definition
on.
was online. That
It was really bad. Not
bothers
even
me.
online, like in an actual.
No.
No online. I know. So at that moment, I didn't even realize that I was a person of color until like people started talking about it. And I was like, okay, so I'm a person of color. Everyone calls me she. And like the bus ride whole incident was like between the ages of 5 and 6.
Okay.
However, when I was like 8, there was this thing that happened at school where like somebody chopped off my hair and my mom was like,
What?
I've got to even it out now. And so my hair was like pretty much like faded at the back and like a little tiny afro around the rest of my head. And as soon as that happened, I was just like, oh, like I miss my old hair. And like that was upsetting just by itself. Like kid cuts off other kids' hair.
What?
She has to go to school the next day with like a friggin' like buzzed afro. People started calling me a boy. And that's when I was like, oh, people are calling me a boy. Like I'd be like, going wherever I'm going. And they're like, oh, it's okay. Little cute little guy, cute this. Like, and I was like, I don't ever get called little guy. Like, so now I'm realizing like if I have short hair, I guess I'm like little guy. And so I started like obsessing about having my hair coming back because I didn't want to be called little guy because I knew for sure that I was a girl because the whole time before I was 8 years old, everyone was like, she, and you're so beautiful and all these things. And all of a sudden I'm this little guy. And so can I have my hair back? And that's when I started like at the age of like 10, 12, getting super obsessed with like research and like you're saying, trying to figure out what the heck is happening with like my body. Am I a woman? Am I a boy? Am I a
little guy?
A little guy? Am I like I legit was like, what am I? And so I'm in the library like crazy, and I start like going through like human anatomy, and then like, the library's just got all the books. And so you just start wandering through, and there's like a lot of fun things like human anatomy, like for women and men, but also like there were like witch books, and like I was like, I've seen Sabrina. It was very popular when I was young. I was like, so if I just become a witch, then I can grow back my hair. It made sense in my head, okay? And so
I love that train of thought so much.
I'll never forget, like quite literally, like having this book and being like, hair growth, okay, great, perfect. And then like it needed all these ingredients, and I was like, darn, I can't do this at the library. And so I had to like take out the book and like bring it home and like cast this spell over my brush, and like
it's funny, but it's really sad.
over my
It's like
shampoo,
at its
and,
core,
like,
it's really, really sad.
there were so many social pressures on literally my image.
I'm trying to put voodoo on the shampoo.
And I was like, like, I'm not kidding. Like reading the,
I hate that.
it was a lot. And so I knew for a fact that like, if I had short hair and I had certain physical conformities, that I would be called a dude. And so I really went against it 100% of the time. I was like overcompensating for how feminine I was supposed to look.
Mhm.
And I got like wanting to always have my nails painted, and pretty much like wanting to have earrings in all the time all of a sudden. And before that, I was like, I don't want to wear earrings ever. My mom, when I was a kid, she tried to put a dress on me to like go to some kind of outing. I remember telling her she was ruining my life because I wanted to wear pants. I grew up with an older brother. We were not rich. If his clothes fit me, they became my clothes. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so I was suddenly like, don't make me wear guy stuff. I want to wear only girly stuff. And my mom was like, what? Because I was climbing trees and catching snakes and frogs and
Like
fishing,
a tomboy.
and I was literally like a boy. And then all of a sudden at like 12 years old, I just like wanted to
It was
be
like hyper femininity.
give me high heels, give me all this stuff. Like I want to have like long hair, so we need to do like extensions or something. And so another epiphany, now that I'm older in hindsight, my mom's like, okay, like she's trying to do her best, and she takes me out shopping, and I need these like low-rise bell bottoms because they're the best pants back then.
Of
And
course.
I'm like, they're like corduroy, and they're like wide at the bottom, and
I
like
want those.
yeah, they were really cute. And like the heels and everything, and like the extension hair, I was like, I need to have long hair. And my spell didn't work. And so, well, I thought my spell didn't work. I mean, now I'm like, okay, maybe it worked, but it didn't grow my hair right away. So I was like, I need extensions. And my mom was like, okay, like she brought me to get the extensions and got me to, they got put in. Long story short, hours later, I've got like this full body of like blue hair, because that was my favorite color back then.
Love it.
And I'm like, I feel great. I'm like, all of a sudden, my confidence was coming from those physical material items. And
I was going to say material. Isn't it interesting that we associate femininity with like
material,
all this like shit you put on? Like,
oh yeah,
a
layer
piece of
and
hair, a nail,
layer and
a makeup. Yeah.
and
But masculinity doesn't come with any like Lego
like-
pieces to add on.
Exactly.
But the feminine side, I know when I started trying to be feminine, it suddenly became about accessories and like
yeah,
attachment. And then that came in with a mental thing, because it was like anything that's feminine, I have to add on to my body. I don't possess it naturally. So then that developed its own complex. But I think it says a lot about society that when we try to be feminine, it's all these like added
it was
shit. It's like,
so
what if
much to add.
what if as society put for feminine for women? It's like to look their better self, they have to add all this shit.
Yeah.
Fake implants, nails, all
Yeah.
these things. Like, yeah,
It's
so it's
over
really
the top.
interesting
The
that for
high
you,
heels,
even
the-
as a woman who was naturally born woman, a cisgender female, to feel more female, you had to add on more.
Earrings, heels,
Yeah.
nails, hair.
Yeah. There's something to be said there.
Yeah. And so like just all of the pressure combined, I ended up getting all these little tiny bumps, and I didn't have acne. I just ended up getting all these little tiny bumps, and they were like literally right along my hairline and like around here, behind my ears, on the back of my neck. And at first I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. And my mom's just like, acne. And then eventually like the little bumps end up turning into like one platelet of skin and just like fall off everywhere around, just where like the hair would generally touch. And at that moment, we're coming to the conclusion that I was allergic to the extension hair.
Right.
And so I'm allergic to acrylic. So yeah, that's my kryptonite. Don't try to kill me. But I had to take all of those hours of, beautiful blue, I'm a female now, not being called little guy anymore, out of my hair.
Oh.
And it was so heartbreaking for me.
That breaks my heart. Why can people not catch a break? You
I
finally
don't know.
go
It
through all
was
this
very
money and
odd.
effort and find this thing, and then it's like, and now it's psoriasis.
Peeling,
Like, why?
peeling. Like it was not cute. And so,
way to get kicked when you're down.
yeah, I was like, come on, man, I'm just turned into a girl. For me, I was like,
Cinderella back into a pumpkin.
I'm like, no, I don't want this. So definitely heartbreaking. And from that point, I really started being more introverted, and I would kind of like just come straight home after school, and bullying and things change, and they kind of tell you what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And then the talk of race was another level of being bullied. And then, eventually people found out that I had 2 female parents, and that was another way of being bullied.
My
so
God.
pretty much
the bingo card, you're just picking everyone
it was
up.
just like, I'm going straight home. I'm closing that door and I'm not talking to anybody. And every day I would get up, go to school, try to be a class clown sometimes to socialize, but it was getting bad, and just close myself away. Eventually, my teachers start saying, like, she's not sitting still. I don't know if she's doing any physical activity, but, either she has ADD or something's happening. And so my mom brings me to a pediatrician, and she's like, I don't believe in this ADD thing, because you guys tried to tell me that my son had ADD, and we put him on Adderall, and he was like a mess. And so she was like, this is not what I'm going to do. It's got to be some kind of like holistic solution. And at that point, the solution was then make her be physically active. And I'm so grateful, whoever that pediatrician was, maybe I'll like hunt you out one day, pretty much told my mom that like I should try to be more active and be a kid and like run and play and be out. And so my mom was like, okay, like which sport do you want to join?
And the girliest one.
It was like very odd. It was very odd. Like I was like, I don't have any sports history. Maybe I'll just do like track. I can run, right? And so, the spandex and the tight shirt.
Love it.
I looked great,
Perfect.
And I was like, okay, this is awesome. I can do track. And like I started making friends there, and like I was running in the morning, being physically active. And that's when I started to kind of figure out who I was, because I noticed that like the guys and the girls in track and field are all wearing very tight, aerodynamic.
Oh my God, I relate to that so hard. Anytime there was a moment where we were both in the same thing.
I was like,
yeah. Oh man, you just hit so close to home
gawking,
right there. Yeah.
Gawking. Like it was like my brain was starting to like feel like it was exploding. I felt like I didn't have to be acting masculine or acting feminine at all. We were genuinely all wearing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like track and field that completely changed my mind on like, wait, guys, wear super tight shorts to run fast. It's just aerodynamic. And so from that point was when I was like, you know what? There's more people that I can become friends with. A lot of people of color were in sports and fast and whatever. And I started making friends with other people who looked like me. And so I started to understand that being Black doesn't directly relate to being bullied. In my brain, I thought being Black meant bullied. So let's try to be as Caucasian as possible. But really, I just didn't have those connections. And so thank God for making connections. Thank God for the pediatrician. Thank God for track and field. I met like-minded people who were women who were runners and very muscular and whatever. Men who were wearing tight shorts and whatever. Different cultures coming together. And then later on in life was when I started to learn about my own sexuality. The entire time that I was in high school, I was like, I'm not attracted to anything but dudes. And the normal crush with a lot of my girlfriends was on guys. So in my brain, it didn't make sense to have a crush on a girl.
Right.
I didn't want to look at anybody who was not a guy.
Okay.
And so I would deliberately change my gaze.
Right.
And I found myself deliberately changing my gaze away from
like
girls.
Consciously making an effort.
Stop looking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like really difficult, obviously, because, you're in sports, you're in the same change room, you're in the same space for gym, you're surrounded, they start separating you, they start putting you in front of each other with less clothing and less clothing.
Yep.
You're like, change your glance, change your glance, change your glance, right? And so for me, I realized I'm like struggling to like change my glance, but I didn't necessarily understand it until I was like in my 20s, which is a really late time to be like, oh, okay, like I feel like this attraction turns me on. And so maybe safest thing, like I'm bi. Like that sounds safe. You know what I mean? I don't want to just be like, oh my God, like I'm fully a lesbian, because like I'm going to have a partner and then their children are going to get bullied because my mom was a lesbian. And like I knew what it looked like to see her go through what we went through at school just because our parents were same-sex relationship. And so I kind of had to understand what that meant for me in the way that I present myself. And that's when I started getting really eclectic with what I wear. I was changing what I wanted to wear to like bow ties and like golf shoes and like,
interesting.
Yeah, I loved wearing like vests and like
full circle.
Suddenly
we're back.
We're back. And I was like, okay, like this feels really cool. Like one day I'm fully like feminine and the next day I'm like bow tie, like people are calling me little guy again. Like, you know, like I was like, huh, I don't really feel, you know, it's fine. If I'm bi, I can do whatever I want. If I'm right on the fence, I feel like I don't have to live in this like box, like you said, and color within the lines. I can just wear what I want, be what I want, and feel happy, because that's where the worry started to go away. In my brain, I didn't actually feel like I was scared for what people would think anymore. It more felt like I was like in your face. And when I had that boost of confidence, I was unstoppable. I'm like, no, you can't. There's no way you can. Like, even if you try to, you know?
Oh my gosh. It's like a flick of a switch.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're like, I used to stay up at night crying over being this. Like this was in there somewhere. Like, huh?
Yeah.
Once
I was
you
literally
tap into
fighting my mom. I'm like, you're ruining my life. I said.
Yeah.
It was dramatic.
It is dramatic.
Some of my transitions were very dramatic.
No, me too.
Yeah. I honestly now love who I've become.
Me too.
Especially because I feel like as soon as I broke the barrier on what my idea of being, you know, bi is, what my idea of being a girl is, and what my idea of being a person of color is, I realized that like any of these rules don't have to stay the way they are. And that like these rules are man-made.
Yes, and they were decided for you, and they were told, and you were taught them.
Exactly.
You didn't identify with them. You didn't like resonate with them personally. They was just decided for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so my understanding was like starting to feel really good, and that's where I was like, I don't want to conform to like any of this. Like I started rebelling a little bit with the school system, rebelling a little bit with every area.
Me too.
And it put me in a position where I pushed too far. And I was like starting to get into trouble and things like that. But without pushing too far, I didn't know where and when to scale it back.
Yeah.
And so I'm also grateful for that like idea of what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, because I really needed that. And so I appreciate that there, you know, I'm not convicted of any crime, but I appreciate that there is a difference between adults getting arrested for things, and the youth ages are higher in BC. They're like 25 instead of 18 in Ontario. And you have more of a chance to kind of like figure out what's happening for you where it comes to law, where it comes to how you want to live your life, and
that's a really good point.
Be your best you. So
I totally agree with that. Moving back here from living in Australia, we had an old family friend visit from one of the islands, and she came over and was like, it's funny because when you're going through it, you have some sort of self-awareness and some sort of understanding, but sometimes it really takes that like outside view opinion to really see what's going on. And she basically came up to me. It was like my friend's mom, and she was like, Keenan, cause she hadn't seen me in person in like over 10 years. And so she hadn't seen this version of me, yes, online, but not in person. She said, Keenan, it's so nice to see you as exactly who you were meant to be. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And I thought what she was saying was just like clearly this is who you are, blah, blah. And she was like, I always knew this was what you were supposed to be like, because she said you would come over to my daughter's house and you would like, we would go coloring books. You'd grab like the doll coloring book and you always wanted to put on her dress up clothes and pink and stuff. And she's like, you didn't stick to boundaries of gender for a while when you were young. You would shop in any section of toys and things. So you were living very like non-gender conforming. You were making up your own rules. And then all of a sudden you got to a certain age and a certain grade and other people started like deciding for you basically and would say things, pointing out, and all of a sudden you became hyper masculine and you were talking about sports and things. And she was like, I always was like, this isn't Keenan, this isn't it. And she's like, I'm glad that stepping stone was just a chunk of your life. I wish you just got to stay the way you are, but I'm glad we got back there. And I was like, looking back on that, I was like, you're so right. I was originally living non-conformed to societal gender things. I did play with both types of toys and watch either type of show. Like you couldn't advertise for me a man or a boy side or girl or a boy side. I just wanted either. But all of a sudden there was a shift where I was like, nope, you got to subscribe to one or the other. And so it's shitty when other people or our experiences in society like decide things for us.
Pretty much. And
like shape our own directions. Like who could those people thrived and become on their own naturally without any
of that confirmation, you know, because I feel like when it's in your childhood, you don't think that way.
All of these things are taught. Yeah, you're so innocent.
Changes your
mind. It was
mind.
like, I like pink and I like blue. And I would like get these like big monster trucks and then like put my dolls in them. And like I would be using both at the same time because I am very much both at the same time.
Yeah. I feel like the one thing that is consistent between both is that pretty much at some point somebody told us ways and then we had to decide what they were. And with that being said, like I want to say to all of you guys, don't let anyone tell you who or who not to be, because like the message that I need you to understand is that you should feel free.
That part.
If at any point you feel like you are trapped, you are under pressure, you are drowning, suffocating, that is the body telling the brain that you do not feel free. And so if that means, you know, sticking up to somebody, if that means changing the way you paint your palette on the front of your body with whatever clothes you want to wear, either way it is, be free, feel free. And that's the only way that you'll be able to feel that self-love.
Absolutely. And don't answer for anyone else but yourself. I feel like when I was starting my gender journey and trying to understand myself, everyone wanted a clear answer. Everyone's like, so what does this mean? What do you want to go by? What should I call you? Where are you going to go to the bathroom? That doesn't affect anyone else's life but mine.
At all.
And I was struggling for so many times, like, well, I don't really know. And I would try and come up with these answers and don't answer for anyone but yourself. Yeah. Just literally be like, that's not your business. Why do you need to know that? Just deflect those questions until you're comfortable. And if you're never comfortable, that's also fine. Don't answer for yourself for anyone else but you.
Yeah, I love that.
You don't owe anyone an explanation on who you are or why you are or what you are.
I love that. And so one thing that I'm going to do is a moment of silence just before we, step into what your song of the episode choice is. So that'll at least give you time to think as well. But just a moment of deep breathing and being able to sit in this energy and feel, free. At the end of this episode, I'd love for you to write down 5 questions that you should ask yourself. And you're making these questions so that answering to you becomes a real thing instead of answering to other people, actually asking yourself these questions. We're just going to do a few seconds of silence and a few deep breaths. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us in that stillness. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on any platform. Me at Keyosha333 and Keenan
at Keenan Cameron Reed.
Yes, please. Now, the song suggestion of the week, I'm just going to do a drum roll first. Is...
Okay, so the song I want everyone to listen to, because Kate Bush, who is like a queen to me, and I've been on the Kate Bush train for a long time, is right now trending thanks to her, I probably can't say the name, but thanks to her use in a popular TV series. her one song is trending and it's great and it's wonderful. But there's another song that is my favorite of hers that if you like that song, Kate Bush, listen to Cloud Busting. Also wearing the clouds. I think it all just like works. Cloud
Good
Busting by
choice.
Kate Bush
Yes.
is wonderful. And it's kind of about like the light on the other side and like seeing a good day in like a cloudy day is like good ones coming. So it's like kind of matches what we're talking about. It's just a great song. Cloud Busting by Kate Bush.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing and thanks
Of
for
course.
joining today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Wait, I didn't even know you were gonna do that. I just did that naturally. That was too good.
That was a jinx.
That was so good. That was
I
so
love
good.
that.
I was
I
like, I'm
love
gonna kiss
that.
the camera.